What is this, everybody? DocNate here. I'm going to do a quick video on, well, as you saw in the title, my 10 favorite staples. And when I say staples in Duel Links, I mean cards that can go into any deck. There's none, they can just be thrown into that deck. They make any deck a little bit better. So, first things first, I revamped my Ancient Gear decks from the last episode. And this last episode is the reason I said I'm bringing this episode up. I'm going to start trying to do stuff for beginners, and I feel that this is one of the things I should go over if you're just starting Duel Links. So, in continuation from Ancient Gears, I just revamped. Instead of 2 gear frames, I upped it to 3. I went ahead and spent a little money, getting close to hitting level 20 in the Table Cup, so I decided to just splurge a little bit. So now I have 3 gear frame and 3 Wyvern. As well as I decided to up Necrofusion's beneficent and give myself Millenniumized District. I finally pulled him. I think he's amazing. His effect is super good, especially against other monsters that come out and just deal issues. And I even tested against the Sphere Karibo. If you play him with the Sphere Karibo and I were to have him out on the field, use Necrofusion, he won't get attacked this turn, but who cares? He's going to actually eat the Sphere Karibo. He has 0 attack and defense, so he's vulnerable, but he will negate Sphere Karibo's effect per the chain link because it is a quick effect. So that's going to allow me to actually continue my swing in through and go for game. So enough about that. That was more from last episode, but I'm going to move on to my 10 favorite staples. And by staples, I mean, like I said, any card that can fit into any deck. These are cards that allow you to just have an edge, and they're not deck specific. They're just there. Everyone uses them. If you've been playing PvP, you've seen a lot of these out in play right now. So first things first is the newest one of the newer ones called Dark Bribe. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get a little bit of hate for this because in the TCG, Dark Bribe's a really bad card. It actually allows, well, I'll read the effect. When an opponent's spell trap card is activated, your opponent draw 1 card and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. I paraphrase. But as you can see, that you're giving your opponent a card. But because we don't have many cards that do this, and it is a counter trap, this is really beneficiary right now in my opinion. I think that if you go straight for a Dark Bribe at the right time, you can stun your opponent and you can give yourself a chance because we only have 4,000 life points. With no main phase 2, you can activate something against them. This is a little bit better. In the original TCG, they had a main phase 2, they could recover, they could use that card to start up a different activation chain of events. Not so much right now. Getting only 1 card may not always give them game, but that's why it's number 10 on this list, because they do get a card. That could be bad for you. Next in line is going to be Super Rush Headlong. This card's been played a little bit, especially a while ago. It's been phased out, but I don't think it's one that you should overlook, especially when you go to one of the other trap holes that I'm going to mention in a bit. So Super Rush Headlong, target 1 face-up monster you control and declare 1 attribute. If that target battles an opponent's monster with that attribute this turn, destroy that opponent's monster at the start of the damage step. So your monster's safe. So this is a quick play, so you can activate in response to their attack, or if you want to activate in from your hand as you attack, you can do that. This makes any weak monster, for instance, I run an Ancient Gear box. I could take out a Blue Eyes with that card with my Ancient Gear box because I use Super Rush Headlong. This is a really good card in the sense that it is a quick play. It's spelled Doom for me a couple of times, and it doesn't target. It just says declare that attribute. So because it doesn't target, cards that are immune to that, namely Hazy Flames, you'll see that deck later in a later episode, are not immune. So this is a really, really decent card. Moving into the next one is going to be Enemy Controller. Econ, in my opinion, could be higher on this list, but it does target. And I don't really like targeting. That means I'm only going to affect 1 monster. You got a card or decks that can just swarm, like 6 Samurais have potential to, and a couple of other decks that can. Or they can just prevent targeting, like Hazy Flames again. This is going to be an issue. But because it's such a reliable card, and you can just eat a monster and then win for game. I don't know how many times I've watched Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem just get taken from me because someone's using Econ. It's not fun. And I just lose the duel because that was my only monster in play and he can be targeted. Very salty about that every time it happens. So also would be higher on the list, but it's actually limited down to 2, as you can see right over here. So it's a really good card, but Konami has obviously figured out that it's a really good card, so they limit you to 2, so that could hurt your issues. So other main engines have been put down to 2 with the ban list, so this may or may not be beneficial to you, or you may not even have room to use it. But if you can, and you're trying to run other decks, and you're trying to play a little defensively or offensively, Econ might be your best friend. Number 7, right? 10, 9, 8, 7, yeah, 7 is going to be Treacherous Shuffle. TTH is one of my favorite cards of all time, and I love this card, absolutely. The biggest issue I have, and why it's not higher on this list as well, is that you have to have no trap cards in your graveyard. But target 2 monsters in the field, destroy those targets. 2 monsters on the field, they don't have to be face up, they don't have to be face down, just target them and boom, pop, pop, gone. I see a lot of people running it with like 4 or 5 trap cards, and I think that's just a bad idea. You can potentially run into a dead draw with this card if you activated one of the other traps. And one dead draw can mean end of the duel for you. Never allow yourself a dead draw. If you're insistent on using this card, only run it with 1 or 2 other traps tops. And if you do have room for other cards, use Super Rush, Headlong, or Econ in order to give yourself a little bit more of an edge, because those are quick plays, spells, and not traps, so you can still use TTH. Again, love this card, but that effect alone makes it really good and really bad at the same time. Be careful when you use Treacherous Shuffle. Next in line, I'm going to go over to Dimensional Prison, which this will be 6. Yeah, 6. This is a quick video, so I didn't have time to number these. I'm like super cool lighting. So number 6 is going to be Dimensional Prison. Dimensional Prism is a really good card. Again, it targets, so it's good, but it's response to a declaration of attack. The biggest thing is that it banishes the target attacking monster. You're going to want that. You're going to love that. There's a lot of cards that just come back from the graveyard, especially Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, dragons in general, really. A lot of cards like Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, if you were to manage to nullify its effect, that would allow you to play against him. You're going to hear me say a lot of hate for Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. But this also goes towards, I forget, that Xenomorph looking dude from Iron Cores. They have their own dragon. If you want to banish him, they'll bring him back to their hand and just play him again. If you want a card gone, you banish it. This, right now, the way Duel Links is, banishing is your way to go. Moving on to number 4. Wall of Disruption. So Wall of Disruption is actually a really good card. Now, it doesn't get rid of the monster per se, but it does a lot better in some cases. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, all attack position monsters your opponent controls lose 800 attack for each monster they control. So, the monster that you're trying to target with this card may be the only one in attack position, but if they have 2 others face down, that guy's still losing 2400 attack. That is enough to switch any battle. If you're trying to just make a monster lose some damage, get rid of it, 800 attack is still nothing to sneeze at. But if they got a swarm on the field, and you're like looking at end game, you have no monsters on the field, but you got this one card set down, they didn't get rid of it, you activate Wall of Disruption, you may only take half the life points, but they're sitting on 3 800 attack monsters. That's enough for you to turn the game around. Because it doesn't destroy, Stardust doesn't block it. Because it doesn't just target, Hazy Flames can't deal with it either. It doesn't allow for removal in the sense, so my Ancient Gear Golem, Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem doesn't get to bring out the regular Golem, and he's losing 2400 to his attack. There's a lot of good benefits to this card. Just because it doesn't destroy doesn't mean it's not good, and in some cases that's even better. So Wall Disruption sitting at number 4, really solid card. I think if you can get a hold of this card, you should. Drowning Mare Force is going to be my number 3. This is the only Mare Force we have right now, aside from Radiant, I believe. But Radiant is nowhere near as good as Drowning. The regular Mare Force destroys and sends them all to the graveyard. That's really good, but this might be better. The fact that they gave us this card instead of regular Mare Force is kind of iffy to me, because I mean, I understand that they didn't want to give us the regular Mare Force because it destroys all your opponent's attack position monsters, but this shuffles them right back into the deck. I understand that, yeah, you might be able to bring them back with some special summoning and stuff, but you gotta redraw them in most cases, and that's just way worse, because the card is dead until you draw it. I mean, even in your graveyard, a lot of dragon decks and a lot of other cards can just bring it back. We got Monster Reborn in the very, like, if we were for each, for, you know, bringing a monster back from the graveyard. You got a couple of dragons that are just, you know, special summoning with Silver's Cry. Red Eyes comes back out with Red Eyes Spirit. When they're in the graveyard, it's like an extension of their hand. This puts them back to the deck, and you no longer get to deal with it. Hope you draw that card again. This is easily one of the best cards in this game. The only thing is, it has to be a direct attack, and I can understand why that's considered, you just can't see me doing air quotes, but why that's considered worse than regular Mare Force. But that direct attack is whenever you need it. If you're going against Destiny heroes, which is top meta right now, and until they hit it with a ban list, I don't even know if they will at this point. I've been waiting for a ban list hit on that card, on that deck for a while, but hey, hasn't happened, so I'm thinking it's going to stay. Anki comes right at you, direct attack, boom, put them all to the deck. You're already in monsters and he's going in for that direct attack to just bypass you, boom, put them all to the deck. It's a good card, and even if they chain their mass change to it, that's a chain link too, so to resolve first, they're going to get that other monster, and that's going back to the deck. So, that doesn't save them. This is easily one of your lifesavers. If you can have room to run this card, you have this card. You should be playing it. Moving on to my number 2, Anti-Magic Arrows. This is high on the list, so, and I understand there's other cards like the Brotherhood of the Fire Fist's cards. I forget it's called Fire Freshing, I think Goki or something like that. And then you have Hey Tornade. Those are easily really, really good cards, but I like Anti-Magic Arrows the best because it is a quick play. So in this, activates at the start of the battle phase for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, spells and trap cards and their effects cannot be activated. Cards and effects cannot be activated in response to this card's activation. Because it says that, I don't care if you have Solemn Judgment, we don't have it, but like Solemn Scolding, 3,000 life points, Divine Wrath, Dark Bribe, for instance. I mean, you just can't, not Divine Wrath, I think it was Divine Judgment, what was it called? Anyway, it doesn't matter how many counter traps you might have for this card. This card says you can't activate in response, and so then you're just ready to just steamroll right in. Great for cards like Hazy Flames, great for Blue Eyes, great for Red Eyes, great for a lot of decks. If you have room for it and you're just swarming and you're just tired of running into your opponent's back row, run this card. There's a lot of decks that just do that. They just go straight for a steamroll. They're very aggro in that sense. Aggro being that all they do is attack. And this card defends them. You're going to want this card. It's super easy to get. That's why it's number 2 in this list, because you can just get it through a secret rare gift. They hand it to you. You can get Karibo to hand it to you whenever you build it up and you make, you know, happy little Karibo pet. This card is super duper easy to get. I highly recommend it. You should be using this card if you run aggro. That's just my opinion. Number 1 on my list is probably a lot of bias, but it's going to be my Forbidden Chalice. Forbidden Chalice is really good for set lists. I think it's really good in a lot of situations. It's really techy. It's not, I mean, in the sense that you can use it offensively and defensively. It gives you 400 attack. Target one face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. The target gains 400 attack, but its effects are gated. That's really good when you run into a Kakeki. It's really good when you run into a Wyvern. It's really good whenever they try to go into Drill Dark from Destiny Heroes. It's really good in a lot of situations. Hell, even this Fusion Summon right here, he's going to try to activate his effect. I'm going to give him 400 attack, he's going to sit on a whopping 400 attack, and he's going to lose all of his effects. You chainlink this to a Shien whenever he's trying to negate his effect. He loses his effect because he can only activate his effects once. And because it's quick play, it's going to hit. And you can do it part of a chain link, and your effect kicks off. This card is so good, and the fact that not many people are using it bothers me. But I will use it, and I hope you do too. This card is not as easy to obtain. I forget which box. I will show you. It's my favorite. Servant of Kings. so it's old. It's from 2017. So finding this one is a little hard. You might want to use one of the anniversary presents that they give you, especially if you're starting out. You're going to get one of those. Maybe get a Forbidden Chalice from that. So if you can get a hold of it, great. If you can't, I mean, I would dump some gems to try to dig it out, but that's up to you. That's your call. So it is a secret rare, and I believe in Servant of Kings. I think it's a mini box, so you're not even have to reset in order to get it. I had to do that. There it is, right there. So again, not easy to get. I mean, you can reset that mini box if you like, but it's so worth it. I don't know how many times I've won a duel solely because of it. The Amazonas swordsman or swordswoman, she comes in and she attacks, and she'll try to attack my ultimate curriculum, and her effect would have kicked off. I would have taken all that damage and lost the duel, but Forbidden Chalice for the rescue comes in, chain links them to that effect, she loses her effect, and he takes all the damage instead, and he loses the duel. So many uses for this card. Should be running into this more often. Okay, so enough of my rant. That's a 16-minute long video, so I expected this one to be a little shorter, and it wasn't. So I'm sorry about that. But I think you get it. My top 10 for staples that you possibly should be running in any of your decks and any mixture of thereof. So that's my opinion. I'll see you guys when I make another deck list, and wish me luck. I'm about to hit level 20 on the Kaiba Cup, so see you then. Alright, hasta luego.